Barry Sanders was not the best running back in all of college history.
Are you nuts?
One guy in the history of college football has won a Heisman as a defensive player, Charles Woodson.
It don't mean a thing if you don't win a ring.
We got quarterbacks, running backs, oh my.
Maybe you should have prayed more and you wouldn't be working the night shift at Ripley's Believe It or Not.
We're talking about college.
We're going to find out who the greatest college football player of all time really is.
This is the Go Bracket.
Today we are here to debate and find out who is the greatest college football player of all time. Let's kick things off with our number 1 seed, Tim Tebow, versus our number 16 seed, DeVonta Smith.
KP, you know you are my guy. I hate that they did this to you, right? The public humiliation, Richie. They threw you into the lion's den. They said, look me in the eyes and try to convince me that DeVonta Smith is a better football player than Tim Tebow. We both know that's not true, right? Tim Tebow transcends greatness. When you think of college football legend, GOAT status, you think of Tim Tebow. You think of 2-time national champion, Heisman Trophy winner, and 3-time top 5 Heisman Trophy finisher. What is your argument here, right? I think DeVonta Smith had 2 good years, sandwiched between a Justin Blackmon, who was a better college wide receiver, Jamar Chase, a better college wide receiver. What is even your argument for DeVonta Smith? I'm very curious to hear.
Oh, well, I'm so happy you asked, my man. First of all, you called Tim Tebow a 2-time national champion. He's a 1-time national champion because Chris Leak won the first one. And unlike my guy, who as a freshman caught the game-winning touchdown in his national championship.
One of 3 touchdowns he had that year.
Only to sandwich it at the other end.
Tim Tebow had 13 touchdowns as a freshman.
With a 200-yard performance in the first half.
He was getting covered by a big, angry linebacker, Chris Borland.
Smith was so good. Several NFL corners we thought were bad. He made Derrick Stingley look like me and you were out there covering him. He made A.J. Tyrell twerk on national TV. He had Trayvon Diggs suffering every day in practice. DeVonta Smith is so incredibly good at football while being no bigger than this microphone. And he went out there and did it every single Saturday, only to carry it to the league and become such a great example of humility for me, you, and our children by saying, you know what,
you want to get into humility. You know who Tim Tebow is, right?
Yeah.
The guy's saving the world right now. And let's leave it into college football, dude. Tim Tebow again.
I know why you want to leave it into college football. I respect it.
Wait, is this the
if I was arguing for Tim Tebow, I would too.
Wait, are we talking about who had a better NFL career?
We're talking about it all, baby. What you got?
Well, I don't think we are, actually. We're talking about who had a better college football career. You're talking about his freshman year, right? I don't even know how that could be a hatred toward Tebow. He scored 13 touchdowns. He wasn't some normal backup. And in the championship game, he had 2 touchdowns. He threw 1, ran 1, helped lead the team. So when they needed him, they relied on him. Oh, I don't even remember who the other guy's name was. He came back the following year, won the Heisman. He came back the next year, won a national championship. He came back the next year. Again, they got bounced. They went 13-1, though, and that's when Alabama's dynasty. You guys know about Alabama's dynasty, Nick Saban, right? So the dynasty started when Tim Tebow left. Until that time, and then it was the greatest dynasty in college football history. So while Tebow was there, that was the only thing preventing it. In 2008, the year before the dynasty started, Alabama walked into the SEC championship, an undefeated team, until they ran into Tim Tebow, and he had a great performance there. They won by double figures, right? And then they won a national championship. So then, the Saban dynasty started when Tebow left, after the most prolific career in college sports history.
You know how good DeVonta Smith was?
No, I don't. I have no idea.
DeVonta Smith's so good that everyone watching this would think this is a Drake May jersey, right? Oh, no. This is DeVonta Smith's greatest accomplishment right here.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Getting Mac Jones drafted. DeVonta Smith was so good that he convinced the greatest coach and GM ever to draft Mac Jones and ruin his career. We wouldn't know who Jordan Hudson was if it wasn't for DeVonta Smith. He's that good.
Fellas, well done. The votes are in, and it was way closer than I actually anticipated. But as usual, the Lord is on Tim Tebow's side.
Look, the voters got this one right. I'm happy I was able to make a compelling argument enough to make it close, but it's hard to go against Tim Tebow. The man got the Holy Trinity on his side. I'm happy I was able to represent DeVonta Smith in his proper light.
All right, let's keep this drive rolling and bring up our number 2 seed, Reggie Bush, versus our number 15 seed, Vince Young.
Reggie Bush is the best college football player of all time. I don't need some notes to tell me how that is. They don't need notes to tell them how that is. Heisman Trophy winner, 2-time Heisman finalist, 513 yards in one game, all-purpose yards. Reggie Bush wasn't just a running back. He was a wide receiver, kick returner, punt returner. Mr. Did It All, and had the pressure of living in Southern California. You know who he dated as well, right?
Stop.
You
Stop.
I can't stop. Because Reggie Bush ain't stopping.
You said who did he date a Kardashian? Okay, we get that.
On the field and off the field matters as well.
Listen. So we talking about Too high. What? Heisman? Yeah, okay. He won in 05, but who won in 04? His
was
quarterback, right?
Yes.
So you're confused. So you're saying greatest
Greatest
player.
ever. Greatest ever.
right? Or we
Greatest
can say
ever.
the greatest team in.
He had a great team.
USC was one of the greatest teams in the early 2000s.
Did Texas not have a great team? They
Texas,
had 5.
No. Listen. Vince Young, right? In 05, he went against the odds, won the national championship, right?
Yes, he won.
And at the end of his speech, what did he said? Yes, sir, we'll be back. And what did he do the next year? He went back to the national championship. And what did he do? Beat your team, USC and Reggie Bush. What did Reggie Bush do that game? What did he do that game?
He had a quality game.
No,
he didn't have his
ran
best game of his
he
season,
ran
but it
for
doesn't
82
matter.
yards.
It doesn't matter.
The running back ran for 82 yards.
Who else played with Reggie
Vince
Bush?
Young ran for 200+ yards. And you know what he did?
And to your argument,
he scored 3 touchdowns. You know what he did the year before that?
You're talking about
He
one
scored-
game.
No.
Let me
The
finish.
year before
Let me
that, he
go.
scored 4 touchdowns. Do you know who holds the record for the most touchdowns in the Rose Bowl? You want me to answer for you? It's Vince
Young had one iconic moment. What do you want, a moment or you want a legacy? A moment or a legacy?
He had
Which
more
one
than
do you
one
want?
iconic
What
moment.
do you want?
Listen,
that moment, that's
Vince
all they
Young-
think about when they think of Vince Young is
Vince
that
Young
one moment.
was down in both Rose Bowls, and he came back.
It doesn't matter how
Yes,
you
it
win.
does.
He won the game.
He still won, right? Did
Yes,
he win that
won.
game?
But
did
did
he win
Reggie
the year
Bush win?
before?
Did Reggie Bush win a Rose? Did Reggie Bush win a national championship?
He won one.
Yes, exactly. So
But do you know who was the lead
What are you
rusher?
talking about?
Lendale.
Exactly.
Lendale White, not
Exactly.
Reggie Bush.
Reggie Bush did
Lendale
all
White.
that he
So
did.
let me give a round of applause for Lendale White real quick.
Let me go.
Shout out
Let me go.
Lendale. But listen,
Reggie, you let me go. Reggie Bush
listen.
did all that he did with Lendale White, with the Matt Leinart. He did all that with
In
all that
05
other star power around
in
him. So wouldn't
05,
that
Reggie
count
Bush
to his
did not
greatness?
even lead
Wouldn't that
USC
count to his
in
greatness?
career TD.
It doesn't matter.
Lendale, yes, it does matter.
No, it doesn't.
You know
All
why it
around
does
game,
matter?
you have all this talent around you. Wouldn't that diminish your light?
Do you hear what he just
his
said?
light still shine as bright as
said
any
all the
could
talent
possibly be.
around.
Vince Young
He
had
said-
time. Vince Young had 5 offensive linemen on his 2005 team
Name-
go to the NFL.
name 2.
Jamal Charles.
Name
Jamal
2.
Charles, was he not on that team?
Uh-huh.
Did he not have a Super Bowl winning tight end on his team
We're
as well?
talking about
Did he not have?
college.
That's
We're not
what I'm
talking
talking
about
about.
Super
That's what I'm
Bowl
talking
yet.
about.
We're-
That's when
hey,
they were in college.
hey,
Did he not have 2
hey.
Jim Thorpe Award winners
Final note.
on his team
Final
that Reggie
note.
Bush played against?
Final
exactly.
note. You cannot spell invincible without spelling Vince. Have a good night, sir.
In this matchup, once again, it was very close, but the edge goes to Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush is moving on.
You did this to me. You did this to Vince Young. You did this to yourself. Oh my gosh. I don't know what the fans are thinking. Maybe they needed to drink some water and have some sugar in their system because this is impossible.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is getting spicy here at the debate desk. Our number 3 seed, Cam Newton, versus our number 14 seed, Baker Mayfield.
Let me just ask you a question about Baker Mayfield first. What do you think is Baker Mayfield's biggest win?
Baker Mayfield's biggest win? I'm not sure.
Okay,
I know,
well,
what
could we
are
be
you-
done? Are we done?
What
Okay.
are you gonna say? Well,
Oh, I
Cam
know,
Newton had
because-
one national championship. Is that's
No.
your argument?
I'm saying no. That's great. I know the win because it was against Ohio State on the road where he planted the flag. The Michigan fan over here, that's where they got the idea. By the way, sorry, I'm making this about the Big Ten. Baker won maybe one big game in his career. All the other ones, he lost. He never won a college football playoff game. That's a big issue when you're facing Cam Newton, who went undefeated at Auburn, who won the national championship. We're talking about the GOAT, so we're talking about small margins. The other thing that is really in Cam's favor, and I know that everyone sitting over here doesn't want to face Cam Newton, and that's because of the Space Jam argument. If you had to pick one guy to drag the Looney Tunes against the Monstars to save the universe, you're picking Cam Newton, who threw for nearly 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, who ran for almost as many yards as a lot of the running back candidates that are on this bracket, who ran for 20 touchdowns. Bo Jackson never ran for 20 touchdowns. Sorry, whoever has Bo Jackson, that you're catching strays. I'm sorry, but Cam Newton is like Vince Young times 2. Cam Newton is like Vince Young times 2. Baker Mayfield had, in his entire career, studs around him. Samaje Perine set the record for an individual single-game rushing record, and he also had Joe Mixon on that team.
All right, Cam Newton, yeah, he might have had the greatest season of all time.
Okay, we're done.
I said season, not
Okay,
career.
okay.
Because you started with a question. Let me ask you a question.
Okay,
What is greatness about? Greatness, are we talking about one career the whole time you're a college football player, or are you talking about one season? Because Baker Mayfield had 2 70-plus completion rate seasons. Cam has 0. All right? Baker
running the ball,
Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was a Heisman winner, and he was a Heisman finalist 3 times. All right. How many was Cam Newton?
That's great. So I know that's going to be a lot of the knock on Cam Newton is that he only had one great year. I still think he dominates the Space Jam argument if we're talking about the greatest of all time as the greatest single football player that could appear out of nowhere right here in front of us. It's Cam Newton 2010 from Auburn.
But it's not just about that. It's about legacy.
But if we're talking about a career, it's not Baker Mayfield. Because if we're talking about the length of a career and we're talking about the distance that you get because you are above someone else over a period of time, the answer is someone like an Orlando Pace who has such a Grand Canyon between them and the second place. That, of course, I'm going to get my Buckeyes in there because there's such a Grand Canyon between second place. But if you take Baker Mayfield off of that Oklahoma team, or if you switch Cam Newton,
Baker made that system. Baker made
with D.D. Westbrook, who was also a Heisman finalist.
Dude,
all right, this one not as close in the polls. Cam Newton, you're moving on.
He barely let me get a word out, okay? The fact of the matter is Baker had longevity and Cam didn't. He made the system, all right? The system made Cam.
All right, let's keep it going with our number 4 seed, Derrick Henry, versus our number 13 seed, Adrian Peterson.
When you talk about college, it teaches you how to be a man. It teaches you how to be a winner. It teaches you how to be a well-rounded GOAT. And when you talk about my GOAT, Derrick Henry, he won the MVP of the 2014 bowl game and then followed it up with a 2015 season. That was for the record books. And you know what else he didn't do? He didn't, allegedly, do anything to his kids either. He's a good man, Derrick Henry, in addition to the 2,200-yard rushing season he had.
To be fair, those things happened after college, and so we're going to specifically talk about
maybe
college.
He didn't learn anything in college then, so what was the point of college?
Okay, so let me ask you this question
He had bad coaches.
Let me ask you this question about Derrick Henry. When Alabama needed him the most in the 2015 Sugar Bowl versus Ohio State, why did they split his carries with T.J. Yeldon when they needed him to win? Because he wasn't good enough to do it on his own.
He had 2 touchdowns. Touchdowns.
Why didn't he have more? They still lost. They still thought it was a good idea to play T.J. Yeldon. But let's take it back for a second.
Where's Adrian Peterson's ring? Because I remember that he had 0 touchdowns against USC in the biggest game of his life in 2005.
and he also got that team.
Rushed for 83 yards.
And he got that team to the national championship game as a freshman. Now, let's talk about it on the whole. Adrian Peterson had 1,900 yards as a freshman, the single greatest freshman rushing record of all time. He also had 1,100 yards his junior year and only played half the games because he broke his collarbone diving into the end zone against Iowa State up 20 in a meaningless game. That's how much he cared about showing the fans that he was great. Now, here's another thing. Adrian Peterson had 22 100-yard rushing games. Derrick Henry had 15. Adrian Peterson had 6 200-yard rushing games. Derrick Henry had 4.
That's great, but it don't mean a thing if you don't win a ring, and that's what he did. He failed in the biggest games against USC. He had 83 yards. Henry, everyone knew the ball was going to him. He was their quarterback. Anyone in this room could have been better quarterback in 2015 for Alabama.
Okay,
he had 3 touchdowns.
So let's talk about the players that Derrick Henry had. Derrick Henry, in his Heisman year, played with 5 future NFL offensive linemen. He also played with Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Do you know the quarterbacks that Adrian Peterson played with? Jason White, Rhett Bomar. He played with a guy named Rhett Bomar, okay? And do you know the quarterback he had to go up against Boise State with? Paul Thompson. Who knows who that guy is?
Right.
Okay, and he had 2 NFL offensive linemen his entire career.
He was going up against SEC defenses that were all 7 of them were getting drafted in the NFL on every team they were playing against, unless, I'm mistaken, your Big 12.
He played Clemson in the national
That's a bunch of
championship.
real estate brokers, and he lost against real estate brokers in the Big 12.
Okay.
In the Big 12.
So let's talk about this as well. Let's talk about an all-purpose players. How many kick return yards did Derrick Henry had? 0. Adrian Peterson, 167.
Okay. Today, we have our first upset moving on. Adrian Peterson, Derrick Henry is headed out.
I've got nobody to blame but myself, really, for that one. I just was so cocky. I really thought I could get him to be silent the whole time by just mentioning the off-the-field drama with Adrian Peterson. I was going to save my Derrick Henry stats for some of the fights later in the competition, but you know what? For me, I'm not moving forward in the competition. That's all right. Let's go. Let's see if Tim Tebow brings it home.
Let's head to our next matchup. Number 5, Joe Burrow versus number 12, Charles Woodson.
I hate to do this to Charles Woodson. I didn't watch him play, but going back and watching his highlights, it's Travis Hunter-esque with the ball skills. He never got the ball thrown his way. It's just Joe Burrow is clearly the greatest college quarterback of all time. He was on the best offense. He was in the best offense in the history of college football. No team scored more points.
I wonder why.
Joe Burrow, you're going to say, well, Joe Burrow had Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow was the best player on the best team in the history of college football. They do this thing in April. It's called the NFL Draft, and they draft the best college players. Joe Burrow was the highest drafted player on that LSU team.
I want you guys to raise your hands if you have a quarterback in here. Please. You have a quarterback, right? Okay. How many of you have a defensive player? One? Where's Deion? Shout out the OG. Okay. Aside from that, here we go. Now, one guy in the history of college football has won a Heisman as a defensive player. One man. Charles Woodson.
And he was incredible.
Charles Woodson.
He was incredible, but it's Joe Burrow. We
Okay,
can't have this
how old was
conversation.
Joe Burrow his first
Charles
season?
Woodson's not even the best two-way player in the history of college football.
How old was Joe Burrow his final season of college football? Let me ask
24,
you a question.
23?
Exactly. He was old as hell. That's all I know.
What does that have to do with anything? He was still in college. What's the ageism? We're pulling the ageism
We're
card
definitely
here?
going to pull the ageism
That's
card here.
ridiculous.
That's number one. Number two, he had the greatest college football team you could argue of all time.
And he was the best player on that team.
Hold on.
Exactly. He was the best
Jamar
player on
Chase,
the best.
Justin Jefferson, are they not 1 and 2 in the NFL at the current
They're
moment? Were they not
absolutely
1 and 2 in college football at the time?
They're
okay,
absolutely
on
incredible.
top of that, they had the
Somebody
best
has to get
offensive
them the
line in
ball.
college football. Best offensive line. Go ahead and name me one guy on that Michigan defense in 1997. I dare you right now.
You name a second guy on that
I
Michigan
don't need
defense.
to.
Exactly.
I don't need to.
Exactly.
I don't need
Charles
to.
Woodson was incredible. It's just a really tough matchup here against Joe Burrow because he's clearly the best college football player of all time. And you can't say
No,
the,
if you
the
want to
best
say college
player of all
football
time.
player of all time, we're going to say Charles Woodson.
That's absolutely
single
incorrect.
greatest
You don't
player.
even believe that.
No,
You're
no,
lying.
but I do believe
you
that.
are lying.
I do believe that.
I know you don't
because
believe
you
that.
could take away one half of the field in the two
Joe
biggest
Burrow
games.
Joe
Hold
Burrow
on,
has
in the
the
two
best
biggest
season in
games
college
of
history.
Charles Woodson's career. What did he do? He went to Ohio State. You guys know a thing or two about that. You guys know a thing or two. Well, regardless, beat Ohio State's ass.
Well,
beat Ohio State's ass. Is that not the biggest game in college football? Yes, it
There's
is.
not
It's
a
the
player
most
that
hyped.
has more total yards or more total touchdowns in a season than Joe Burrow. Statistically,
What
he's the
did-
best. And if you use your eyes, and I'm not a stat guy, I'm an eye test guy, he's the best quarterback I've ever seen on a college football field in my life and your
that's
life.
just
And the
crazy.
quarterback is way more valuable than a cornerback position. Quarterback
Charles,
more valuable than
Charles
cornerback.
Woodson, you could say that all you want. In the two biggest games of his career, won both of those games by himself. Ready?
Joe
Hold
Burrow
on.
never.
Ready? Hold on.
Joe
Hold
Burrow
on.
was never down in the fourth quarter.
Here's the. Who the fuck cares about
What do
that?
you mean? That's
They're
how
the
dominant
greatest
he
team
was.
of all
That's how-
time.
what do you mean? Winning
They're the
isn't
greatest
important.
team of
He was
all
the
time.
most dominant player
Charles
of all
Woodson
time.
went. Charles Woodson played against Ohio State and single-handedly.
Joe Burrow beat the-
single-handedly
Joe Burrow has the most
got
top
a
10
pick
wins
in the
of all
red
time.
zone, ran a 78-yard punt back to the house, and caught a 37-yard pass.
This
One
isn't a
defensive
knock on
player.
Charles Woodson. This isn't a knock on
Defensive
Charles
player
Woodson. It's a
in
testament
one
to
game,
Joe Burrow's greatness.
won a single game as a defensive player. Won the entire game by himself.
Okay. Hey, that might have been the best one yet. Well done, fellas. Well done. But moving on is Joe Burrow.
My whole goal coming into this was educating everybody on some Charles Woodson ball. The guy needs his flowers. The only Heisman as a defensive player ever. Come on, respect Charles Woodson. Know some ball.
Our next matchup in the bracket, we have number 6, Barry Sanders versus number 11, Lamar Jackson.
The greatest single college football season of all time, Barry Sanders. 2,850 rushing yards, 42 rushing touchdowns. The most unstoppable player when it comes to college football. He was playing at Oklahoma State. The ability that he had to make something out of nothing. We saw it in the NFL too, but it's college football we're talking about. Barry Sanders, not only the greatest running back season in college football history, the greatest single season. Statistically, eye test. Joe Burrow was talking about eye test, whatever you want to say. Barry Sanders. Lamar Jackson doesn't even hold a candle, hold a flame, and I'm looking like Scrooge
And this is
right
where
now.
I'm going
He doesn't
to
hold
take
a
you
candle
out. Listen
Barry
to me.
Sanders.
Listen to me.
I'll listen,
First
but
of
it's not
all,
gonna matter.
before I get to my Lamar debate, Barry Sanders was not the best running back in all of college history.
you nuts?
I'm not going to get into that right now. Lamar Jackson terrorized defensive coordinators on a weekly basis. May I add, in his 3 years at Louisville, which 2.5 of them he started, Barry Sanders had 1 year that was important. The other 2, he was a punt returner, a kick returner, and the first year he didn't start. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, he's coming in
He
on
had
the lineup
1
with
year.
His, Thurman Thomas is the Thurman Thomas.
He had 1 year, and let me tell you this, right? That Oklahoma State team, which I'm not going to bring up championships because that's something I can't argue, but I will say this: that team beat 0 AP ranked opponents. Barry Sanders had a great year beating scrubs in the Big
great
8.
year. The greatest season we've ever seen.
But let's get back to Lamar. Let's get back to Lamar Jackson, right? No, because I haven't touched on this yet.
He put up decent numbers.
Decent?
When you're
He
talking
put up
about-
51 touchdowns his 2016 Heisman campaign. One of 5 sophomores to win the Heisman campaign.
When you talk about the amount of quarterbacks that are up on this panel, Lamar Jackson barely touches any of them.
Lamar Jackson is the prototype
No
for the
running back on
modern
this panel
day.
touches Barry Sanders one
He's
season.
a running back.
Barry Sanders,
a running back is not as crucial to an offense as a quarterback is. And everyone that has a quarterback in here can agree with me.
And the fact that he put up the numbers that he did, despite running backs not being the most
and
important,
you want to talk about
is only
having,
a testament to how great he is.
Hold on. You want to talk about having both. Let's talk about how Lamar wasn't only a quarterback, but a running back
He was
as well.
a lesser running
His
back than Barry
sophomore
Sanders,
year,
yeah.
he had 3,000 passing yards and 1,500 rushing yards.
Throwing under 60% completion percentage in every single
broke
season.
The
inaccuracy
ACC
was
record.
unbelievable.
Disagree. And let me say
disagree.
this.
Look at the numbers. He was under 60% every
broke
year.
the
He was
ACC
completely
record
inaccurate.
for having not only 3,000 passing yards, but
Dude's like
1,500
trembling right now. You
yards.
can't even believe what I'm saying. Barry Sanders
No,
is like...
not at
come on.
all.
Listen,
Hey, let's also keep this in mind here, right? Lamar, in his career, he was able to put up 1,300 total yards of offense, and he still won a Heisman as a sophomore,
Barry
not a
Sanders
junior.
was
he had
we talk
1
about
year
Heisman. Barry
in.
Sanders was a Heisman winner.
He is the prototype for the modern-day dual-threat quarterback.
3,000 rushing
He is
yards
a phenomenal.
in a single... Dude, he had over 40 rushing touchdowns in a single season. What are we talking about? 40?
What I'm saying is Lamar is the next generation of quarterbacks and put up video game numbers. Cheat code.
Forget
Cheat
next generation.
code.
Barry Sanders is the generation, the only running back that's ever existed.
Gentlemen, I love the energy that's being brought in these later rounds. Let's keep it up. But winning this one and moving on in the bracket, Barry Sanders.
Barry Sanders is a phenomenal running back, and he is one of the greatest to ever do it in college football. But Lamar Jackson completely revolutionized the game for the quarterback position, and if he was plopped on any other team that was not in the ACC, I would have won that debate easily. Do I feel snubbed? A little bit, but I was the underdog, so I had an uphill battle to climb.
Let's keep it rolling with number 7, Bo Jackson, and number 10, Deion Sanders. Prime time.
I am begging the voters, the viewers, do not let Deion Sanders, the coach, impact your decision-making here. Do not let Deion Sanders, the pro,
what do you
impact your decision-making here, because we are talking college. We got a lot of viewers.
Joe,
Wait.
Joe,
I haven't
yes,
gotten my point
yes.
yet. I haven't gotten my point yet.
Hurry up.
I'm just saying.
Get to it.
Don't be biased.
Stop pandering.
Don't-
Let's go.
Bo Jackson single-handedly is the greatest college athlete of all time. Forget football player. Everybody can talk about this. The season
How many
guys put
how
up.
many running backs and Heisman Trophy winners has Auburn had? They've had a few,
One.
right? When you think of Florida State University, Florida State was the homecoming game before Deion Sanders came here. We're in the house of highlights. Primetime made house of highlights every day. The Jerry curl was dry. It looked wet, but it was dry. Primetime started the nickname. They were the nicknames. A cornerback that took over college football. The 88 Sugar Bowl beat the Auburn Tigers with an interception in the last play of the game. Deion Sanders is revolutionary.
Yeah, but you can't act like Auburn was some sort of powerhouse when Bo Jackson got
They
there.
were an SEC power.
Their last national championship was in the 50s before he got there. They hadn't beaten Alabama in 9 years. He stepped in. They won back-to-back as a freshman and as a sophomore.
Joe, we're talking about transcending. Cornerback.
Bo Jackson's not transcending.
There's no under defensive player in this bracket.
You
There's
can't
one
use the
guy
transcendent
here,
argument
a
when we
cornerback
got
that pretty
Bo
much took
Jackson.
the whole side of a football field, and nobody would throw the ball to that side because they were afraid they were gonna get picked off.
You can't do that for a running back.
Then
Nobody was trying to load the
then
box
on
against
top,
Bo
then on
Jackson.
top of that, he played for the Yankees in the offseason because it was so easy in college football. So when you talk about superstars, you talk about one-of-ones, and we're not even talking about the college stuff or his son at the Browns or putting the watch up. We're talking about college.
Wait, you can't say one of one when Bo Jackson was the greatest athlete
There
that has
were
ever
other
graced
running
the
backs.
field.
There were other running
There were
backs.
other running backs.
There
but
was
he is
never
purely
another
the
corner.
greatest
There was
athlete
never
that has
another
ever played the
cornerback
sport.
that did what Deion did.
Anyone who has watched Bo Jackson's highlights.
Bo Jackson plays for Ohio State. The reality is this. We're talking about
That's actually Lamar Jackson.
Whatever. We're talking about a guy right now that is a one-of-one. When you think
Bo Jackson's not a one-of-one. The greatest athlete to ever touch a
college,
field.
and they
Baseball,
still talk
track,
about him.
and football. They still talk. Bo
Well,
Jackson
what did
gets the
Deion
treatment
do?
like
Deion
he
played in
is
the World
a
Series in a Super Bowl. We're talking about college. But when
We are talking about college.
Right, when in college football, he played for the Yankees in the offseason. Bo didn't play baseball until he went left.
Yes, he did. He played 4 years of baseball.
Yeah,
he was hurt one
but he
year.
played college baseball. He didn't play MLB baseball in college.
He was actually a better college baseball player than Deion Sanders
Sanders was. He was a better
But
track
who
athlete
played,
than
who
Deion
played for the
Sanders
Yankees?
was.
Who played for the Yankees?
What do you
Who played
mean?
for you? I do
Who
it all.
cares?
I do it all.
Who cares if he
Yeah,
played
but
for the
the reality
Yankees?
is
He
this.
was a better
Deion
overall athlete than
Sanders
Deion
is a
Sanders.
one of
Deion
one.
can't touch
One
that.
of one.
He was a national finalist for the 100-meter.
I don't know what was more impressive, the debate or that snag right there. Well done, Unc. All right, moving on in this debate, likely because of the catch, Deion Sanders.
None of you guys have watched Bo Jackson highlights. I was cooked from the beginning. I should have been given a better matchup. That should have been the final. It should have been Bo versus Deion in the final. It is what it is. I'm out.
Let's get into our final matchup of the first round. Number 8, Herschel Walker versus number 9, Johnny Manziel.
Yo, forget all of this GOAT debate talk. Johnny Manziel isn't even the greatest SEC player of all time. It's my guy Herschel Walker, 3-time first-team SEC, 3-time SEC Player of the Year, not Offensive Player of the Year, not Defensive Player of the Year, Player of the Year, because in his day, you had to play against everybody else. 3-time unanimous AP All-American, not consensus where you get 50% of the vote. Everybody and their mama voted for him. So I would like to know how Johnny Manziel could top that.
Well, first of all, you got a tough hill to climb because you got to do the old school versus new school situation.
Nah, it's skill
and
versus
you
skill.
also have a running back. I got a QB, and you know you can't win without a good QB. Dual threat. Your best rushing season was 1,700 yards. My best rushing season was 1,400 rushing yards on top of 3,600 passing yards. I had almost 10,000 passing yards and 100 touchdowns total.
Sure,
that
in
was
an
for
inflated
less
era.
and less games.
Let's talk
in
about
less
it
games,
later.
and you're talking
And you
about people
can't even
playing in the
talk about-
80s, dude.
You can't even talk about QBs.
1982.
Who cares?
Anybody could run the ball in
For
1982.
everybody who says
I had
Jordan
to
is
beat-
better than LeBron,
Oh,
we don't gotta
please.
go to the age stuff, all right?
Anybody
Let's talk
can play
about
in the
QBs.
80s and
The reason
dominate.
why you're able to dominate is because you dominate the possession game. My guy had a
Yeah.
better freshman year than you. 1980,
That's
12-0,
crazy.
national
First
championship.
freshman
Finished third
QB,
in the
Heisman
Trophy.
finalist.
He finished third.
First
No
year
freshman. Oh, guess who
Heisman.
did it before? Herschel Walker. He
Yeah.
was the highest freshman posted in the Heisman category.
But it's
Third,
running back.
before
My
anybody
guy's
else.
QB.
Yeah, he
All
has to
these
get the
QBs
ball.
in here didn't
He
win their
needs to be
freshman year.
fed the ball.
All
Johnny
of these
Manziel,
QBs in
yo,
here didn't win their
how about
freshman
this?
year. Dudes were
Unanimous AP
19,
All-American.
cooking up Alabama.
Anyway.
Nick Saban straight up cooked them at 19
First
years
year.
old. And
Okay. Let's talk some real SEC talk,
All right,
all
let me hear
right?
it.
The 50th SEC all-time team. That was in 1982. Herschel Walker makes the team, and he was a junior.
I mean,
They
people
saw
are
him
talking
3
about
years and said, "I've seen
1980s.
enough." Your man has no accolades.
I beat Nick
Your man has
Saban.
no accolades.
What are you
You got
saying?
no
He was
chips.
the-
You got
no
one
chips was
Heisman.
one
Do you have a
thing.
Heisman?
Yeah, Heisman.
And where else did he finish?
First
This other year?
QB ever as a freshman to win the Heisman. We're talking
And he
about
was
no
the first
accolades.
QB
and
to
I
finish
said we
third
cooked
in the Heisman.
and we cooked
You
up
wasn't
this.
doing nothing,
Everybody.
bro.
Crimson
SEC
Tide,
Athlete
Nick
of the Year,
Saban.
1983. You got nothing. Yo, my man was
You're-
an
you're
AP
talking
All-American
about
in track.
1980s.
Your man was
Anybody-
counting money. He was playing Call of Duty. He was playing Halo.
And he was
He
out.
didn't play too
Yeah,
much.
and he was
My
out
guy's
there
a two
cooking
squad
in the
legend.
SEC,
But
beating
your
the
man-
best,
and
the
he still ain't
dynasty
better than
team in
Herschel.
Alabama.
He ain't do nothing to Herschel. And the only reason why people know Johnny Manziel is
Johnny
because
Manziel,
my man was
yeah,
playing
he
in the
was an
80s.
icon,
The reason
dude.
they could
He
watch
was an
Johnny is
icon.
because of Herschel.
Money
He
Manziel's
made
real.
streaming
Money
money
Manziel's
today
real, dog.
because they had to
You
see
even
Herschel
know about
play.
that. You were
They
just straight
needed to
running
get-
back.
He was playing with the bunny ears on the flat screen
We had
TV. Your man
Texas
couldn't even
A&M
cook on
Yo,
Netflix.
Texas A&M
What's up?
didn't even
He
have
couldn't
any
even
good
cook.
players, and they're beating all these guys.
4, 3,
Alabama,
2,
LSU, all those people in SEC.
Hey, all right. I know both of y'all got a headache after that. Because I know I do. Well done, gentlemen. But moving on, Johnny Manziel. I don't think they know who Herschel Walker is. I don't know if they know who he is. Or they do. Or they do. That's a very good point.
Most of y'all haven't watched him play, and I understand it, but you put resume to resume, there's no way he was touching Johnny football. Y'all got it wrong.
All right, let's recap the first round. Tim Tebow moved past DeVonta Smith. Johnny Manziel over Herschel Walker. Adrian Peterson moved past Derrick Henry. Charles Woodson loses to Joe Burrow as he moves on. Reggie Bush past Vince Young. Deion Sanders over Bo Jackson. Cam Newton over Baker Mayfield. And Barry Sanders over Lamar Jackson. Let's get into the second round. First matchup of the second round, Tim Tebow versus Johnny Manziel.
I'm fighting a losing battle here. You guys that grew up watching Johnny Manziel are sitting at home in your mom's basement clicking ready to vote. The guys who grew up on Tim Tebow, they're out there heroes in their community saving Gotham City. When it comes down to stats, when it comes down to legacy, it's not even close. When you think of Tim Tebow, the great moments, you think of the promise speech. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Maybe the greatest speech of all time. That's on a statue outside of Gainesville Stadium. Does Johnny Manziel have anything on Texas A&M? No, because they didn't care about him. They don't associate with him, and he doesn't even associate with them. So you think of him giving the speech, you think of Johnny Manziel doing the money sign to a Rice linebacker who's working down the street right now in private equity or something.
All right, first of all, I don't know why you're saying
completion
Rice.
percentage, more touchdowns.
You had way better players on your team playing on Florida than
And
I
they
did
proved
on
it
my
with winning
team. And
national
I
championships.
beat Alabama next day, but I just said this.
We beat
And you're
Alabama,
talking
and nobody remembers it because that's what Florida did.
Exactly, because your team is way better all around than
He was
mine
throwing to
was.
Mike Evans. The Alabama game, Mike Evans had 270 receiving yards. What was their record against top 25 opponents his junior year?
I mean,
they were 1-4. He shit the
That's
bed
second
versus
year.
Missouri. He shit the bed versus LSU.
The first year that he came out, he's balling out. He's 19 years old. He wasn't
Tebow
even
was
ripping-
19. No, they were both doing
Yeah,
it.
but you literally had way better players on your team.
Freshman is? It
Your-
means you're
your
hanging out on
whole-
the bench, handing out
Your
Gatorade
whole
because they're
offensive
not good
line,
enough to play.
your
Tebow
whole
scored
offensive
13.
line was way better than mine. Everything else that you had was way better than mine.
Oh, great.
And I
Never
came
mind.
out
You
here
win.
and
He
I
threw
balled out.
26 touchdowns and 26 through the air,
I had-
9 through the ground.
I had
for
like
9
60
picks.
touchdowns in like across 2 seasons.
Oh, great.
And
you
that's
win.
yeah,
Cool.
I mean that's a lot.
Tebow had 55
And
in one
wait,
season.
And we also
32
had,
through the
can't
air.
even throw the ball.
Well, he had the highest
had 2,000 yards. Some
completion
shit like
percentage
that.
in the
Like-
SEC 3 years in a row.
Yeah,
It's never
what
been
are we
done
doing?
before.
Baby
It's
routes
never,
all the time?
Oh,
No,
yeah,
you have
well
no,
said.
you have
Heat
no
check.
aerial
Great. He
attack
threw for-
at all.
he's-
Zero aerial
well, he's
attack.
also the
You're
greatest
rushing
power
all the time. What are we
he's
running?
the
Power
highest-
behind D1 guards that are like
D1
absolutely.
guards. You were playing with D3 guys. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, yeah, and I was,
He's
and I
actually-
still
he
have
has the
more
most
rushing yards than you.
Really? Well, who has the most rushing touchdowns in SEC history? We got Herschel Walker
Yeah.
and Bo Jackson.
But
I
you're
have more than
playing-
both
yo,
of them.
you're
None
playing-
of them tapped 50.
How about
Highest
passing?
completion? Okay.
You can't even throw the
Can
ball.
I answer the question? Okay, thank you. So he led the SEC in passing in completion percentage 3 years in a row. It's never been
Completion
done.
percentage is nothing. You could be.
Oh, he threw 32
bubble
touchdowns.
routes, little dink dinks the whole time.
Is
I'm
that what he
slinging
was
the
doing?
ball
He
down.
threw 32 touchdowns and
I'm
6
slinging
picks.
the ball down the field against top
Oh,
teams.
hell yeah, dude. And then he went like this.
How about freshman year?
He got
when,
suspended.
When you were
Tim
19,
Tebow-
did you win Heisman? When you were 19,
yes,
when you were.
Yes, he did. He did. He actually did.
No, he wasn't
He did.
the
And he
first freshman QB.
Okay, you don't know. You're misusing the term freshman. He was a redshirt freshman, which means he stunk and he didn't play freshman year. I scored 13 touchdowns
But you didn't
and led
win,
my team down for a national championship.
You didn't win the Heisman at the same at
He
the
actually
same
did.
time.
You'll look it up
Freshman
after
year,
and then you'll apologize
first
to me.
freshman.
He won it as a
first
19-year-old. They
freshman
were the same
Heisman
age.
QB winner
He was a sophomore
was
in
Johnny
school.
Manziel.
Tim Tebow was a
Tim
beacon of light
Tebow
amongst
can't even throw the
criminals.
ball.
Johnny Manziel
You're
was the
throwing shit
criminal.
in the ground,
Johnny
bro.
Manziel was the criminal. When they went out on Saturday, Florida said,
It's
facts. I'm saying facts.
What I'm saying to you is that I didn't need to do all this praying and all this stuff. I was.
You should have prayed more.
Lose,
And you would be working the night shift.
We booze.
And Ripley's, believe it or not.
It's my Manziel.
All right, this feels like second round debates. I love it, but moving on after this one is Tim Tebow.
I don't think that the fans got it right, but it's all good. I mean, I got a lot of respect for Tim Tebow. He obviously could ball out. But at the end of the day, if I need one player to beat one team, it's definitely going to be Johnny Manziel.
Next matchup of the second round, Reggie Bush versus Deion Sanders.
All due respect, Deion Sanders, one of the greatest of all time. We're not going to deny that. He paved the way for players like Reggie Bush, but paving the way doesn't mean you are the play, a.k.a. Reggie Bush got the ball.
Did you hear what you just said?
AKA,
Paved the way?
A.k.a. Reggie Bush
Did you
got
hear
the
yourself?
A.k.a. Reggie Bush got the ball
Your
once
guy
every
played halfback you.
Let me
but
finish,
the reality
let me
is that they
finish,
have running backs galore.
Let me finish.
Marcus Allen.
Let me finish.
All type of guys. So how you going to take one guy? We talk about Deion Sanders. I bet you can't name 5 guys that played at Florida State that killed it. Because, again, we're talking about revolutionary. Again, in this whole bracket, the only defensive player. We got quarterbacks, running backs. Oh, my. A lot of these guys are around. But when you talk about transcending talent, cornerback, I take one guy and I put him on on the best receiver, and you know what? They don't throw the ball to the best receiver. We're in college football. You do not throw to your best receiver, your 5-star, the blue chip guy, because I got Deion Sanders on that side. And again, that is quintessential because this was in the 80s.
And all due respect, defensive players can't be the best in college football history. Coming from a former defensive back in college, so I would know.
Well, then
offensive
then
players,
you probably
offensive
was
players.
a Deion fan.
Of course.
There you go.
he's-
That's what I'm talking
exactly.
about.
I should be biased, but I'm not. So you need to get out your biases
It's not
and
about
whatnot.
bias.
Reggie Bush got the ball once every 10 plays, scored a touchdown once every 10 plays.
What number did you wear in high school?
Doesn't-
Number 2 or 21?
I wanted to wear number 5 after Reggie Bush. Thank you.
you
Everyone
didn't. You
did.
played cornerback.
They even
You
talked
said you played
about trying to
DB.
put number 5 in the NFL when Reggie Bush was going because his jersey sold
you
out so so much
you
at
mentioned about the
USC,
Kardashians.
so it doesn't even matter.
So what are you talking about?
Reggie Bush
we
had
talk
the
about off the field. Prime time is legacy.
And who had the pressure of living in LA and performing?
What's LA? Or just high taxes? Ain't nothing going on in LA.
You got a lot of things going on, exactly.
Have you been to South Central lately?
Did Deion go to two national championships? Did Deion go to two national championships? Did Deion no, he didn't. He didn't. He didn't go there because he couldn't be that big an asset for his team. So it doesn't matter.
Was a homecoming team.
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does matter.
It doesn't
because
matter.
He went to a team and made it. SC was already established.
Yes, they're established,
So,
but how
right.
can
So
you're
how
a
you
star
gonna
of
take-
stars?
so how you gonna
Deion's a one star on
you had
Florida
a Heisman
State.
Trophy
Who else is a
quarterback.
star? Who else is a star on his team?
At Florida State?
Yes.
That's what makes him so
No,
great.
exactly.
Because he was
Who
the
was
man.
a star on
I
stars?
could pick the stars
You
on your
couldn't put
team.
Deion Sanders
I could pick
on a
Matt
USC
Leinart.
team.
I could talk
Exactly.
about Garrett.
But
I could talk
exactly.
about
But if Deion Sanders was
Brian
on, hold
Cushing
on,
on the
let me ask you
defense,
this. I'm gonna ask you
I
this.
could talk about all
I'm
the
gonna ask you
SC
this.
guys.
It was Deion.
Snoop Dogg on the sideline.
Was
I
Deion-
could talk about everything at SC.
You can talk about it. Keep talking about it. Keep talking
Florida
about it.
State,
Keep
it was
talking about
just
it.
him. This was before.
Exactly.
This was before Charlie Ward.
And if
This
Deion
was
Sanders was on a team full of stars, he wouldn't have shined as bright.
Yes, you don't
He
believe.
needed
You don't
that
even
team.
believe that.
He
Stop
needed
it.
that,
You
and y'all
lying.
know that
You're
too
lying
back at
to
home.
yourself, 'cause
Reggie
you said you
Bush.
played
Everybody
cornerback.
wanted to be
You
Reggie
said
Bush.
you played
Everybody
cornerback.
wanted to wear number
Everybody
5.
wanted to be Deion. That's why you play cornerback, right? You said that when we first started. I
played
played
cornerback and running-
cornerback.
cornerback
So
and
I'm
running
not.
back for the
Oh
Kings.
yeah, whatever. But the reality is
we had
that
to get
you
it
just
together.
said it yourself. You know that you're lying to yourself. I know you want to win. We all want to win. But the reality is that you know Deion Sanders, Florida State is everything.
And Reggie
40
Bush
years later,
paved the
they
way
still
for
talk about
everybody else. And
Deion.
Reggie Bush, the only player who got his Heisman taken away wrongfully, and you know that. And he paved the way for all the
Reggie Bush is a
NIL
simp.
players now.
Reggie Bush is a simp.
See, hater. He a hater.
Well done. And yes, you're right. They cannot take away Reggie's trophy, but they can kick you out of this bracket because Deion Sanders is moving on.
The fans, y'all messed up because apparently y'all only want to hear loud screaming and yelling. My points were proven over his. I let him talk, let him have his time. I just didn't yell enough. That's the only thing.
All right, let's keep it rolling with Cam Newton versus Barry Sanders.
I love Barry Sanders. He actually is one of the only guys in this bracket who didn't have a bunch of superstar teammates help carry him. But he didn't do fucking anything. He put up a bunch of stats, but he played 5 ranked teams in his entire career.
That's his fault?
Oh, no, I'm saying he lost to 4 of them. He lost to Nebraska and Oklahoma. He put up a total of 10 points in that first season. He lost to Nebraska and Oklahoma and put up 0 and 10 points in the next season. And then the only ranked team that it ever beat was Wyoming. Cam Newton ran through the SEC. He put up a bunch of numbers on the ground, a ton of touchdowns as a quarterback. But Barry Sanders couldn't beat anybody, and Barry Sanders couldn't do anything on the national stage. And Barry Sanders, by the way, just I'm going to say one more thing. Barry Sanders, when we're talking about the GOAT and we're talking about all the different ways that you can be the greatest in terms of being a singular force on a team, in terms of your cultural impact, etc., Barry Sanders couldn't catch a fucking cold. In terms of the modern game, he would be off the field for TJ Yeldon on third downs.
Guess what? We're not, all right, people, we're not talking about the modern game. And everything you're
But
saying.
we are talking about the modern game. We talk about Cam Newton.
We're talking about the greatest college football player of all time.
Which is Cam Newton.
And when
won
we're
a national championship,
Did I
won a
cut you off
Heisman.
one time?
You're right.
When
Go ahead,
when
brother.
we're talking about the peak, the pinnacle of your height, there has not been a player that has done, even come close to forget eclipsing, even touching, even scratching, scraping at what Barry Sanders did. Again, almost 3,000 rushing yards, over 40 rushing touchdowns. I understand maybe he didn't beat these great teams.
He didn't play anybody.
You answered that question in the
Yes,
beginning.
yes.
You answered your own question because he didn't have any superstars around him, and he wasn't in a massive. So excuse me,
Cam Newton didn't have anyone around
I didn't
him
cut you off.
either.
He wasn't in a massive SEC conference to play top tier Nick Saban teams,
and he would have got his ass kicked there,
season in and season out. We
just
don't.
like he
Guess
did
what?
against
Guess
Nebraska
what?
and Oklahoma.
Guess what? We don't know because it didn't happen. Bottom
He
line,
played 5 ranked teams and they lost to 4 of them.
And if Barry, again, you answered your own questions because Barry Sanders didn't have anybody else. Defenses were all they had to do was key in on Barry Sanders all the time.
Can you name one player on offense that went to the NFL on the 2010? No.
Can you name out Oklahoma State?
I already gave you that point.
But that's my bro.
But there's no distinction then. Cam Newton, also like Barry Sanders, was the engine of a team that had way higher heights. Barry Sanders did dick all. He had a bunch of stats. They're on his Wikipedia page. But he ran around in the backfield and had the most negative yard rushes in the history of college football.
break.
So he did
Because he had no
nothing
offensive
because
line.
He was getting
What do you, brother?
Cam Newton also didn't have an offensive line. None of them went to the NFL.
Did I just lay?
None of the wide receivers went to the NFL, but
can't
he
even get a word
actually
in.
won a national
Did I?
championship. That's because we're going down, brother, and it's getting tight.
All right. Unfortunately for Barry, it's going to Cam Newton.
Barry Sanders had the single greatest season of all time. And listen, if you want to go with Cam Newton because he won titles and because it's Superman and because of this and that, whatever, you can go with it. Even if I had beaten Cam Newton, was anyone going to beat Tim Tebow, John 3:16? I really highly doubt it. I'll call it right now that he's going to win before the video's even over.
All right. The last matchup of the second round, we have Joe Burrow versus Adrian Peterson.
All right, in order to be the greatest college football player of all time, you need to fall into 3 categories. You need to have won the Heisman, you need to have won a national championship, and you need to have been a quarterback. Because let's face it, the quarterback is the most valuable position on the football field. If you don't have a quarterback, the whole team fails. It's the most valuable position in all of sports. And this isn't a roast Adrian Peterson. It's just what Joe Burrow did is better than anything any college player has ever done.
Sure, yeah, I love Joe SU. Okay, but let's start with the guy who recruited both of them to get his opinion. So, Coach O was the head recruiter at USC when Adrian Peterson was in high school, and he was willing to see if he could get Adrian Peterson's dad, who was in prison, transferred to a California prison so that he could watch his game, because that's how much Adrian Peterson was important. And Coach O's recruitment of Joe Burrow, which he recently went on a podcast and said, I got this all-star stacked team. I just need.
That's not what he did.
Yes, he did.
He reached out to Joe Burrow's brother because he couldn't get in direct contact with Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow wanted to go to Cincinnati, and then he reached out to Joe Burrow's brother, and Joe Burrow said, Coach O said this on a podcast, part of my take podcast. He said, son, grab your nuts. You got 2 of them. Make sure Joe comes to LSU. That's what Ed O said.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know Joe Burrow's better than Adrian Peterson. It's tough that Adrian Peterson has to go down this way, but it's just, it's just what has to happen.
Okay, so let's talk about the highlights here. Joe Burrow has one memorable highlight from that singular year at LSU, which is where he ran around with against Georgia in the backfield.
How many touchdowns did that guy have in the first half of the national championship game?
But let's talk about this. All of his other highlights are him throwing to Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson.
Throwing absolute seeds, absolute dots.
He's throwing to them, and they're running.
Dots.
Adrian Peterson is running around through the whole defenses of the Big 12. The highlights were all on him. He didn't have any NFL offensive linemen except for 2 in 3 years. And let's talk about it like this. It's college football. You talked about Heisman National Championship. Let's talk about rivalry games. Joe Burrow was 1-1 versus Alabama. Adrian Peterson was 3-0 versus Oklahoma State.
Cool.
That's
cool.
what.
Cool. Joe Burrow was way better his second year than he was in his first year. There's not a college football player that had more total touchdowns in a season and more total yards in a season than Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow won. You want to talk about big games? Joe Burrow has the most top 10 wins out of any team, any quarterback in the history of college football. Joe Burrow's the only quarterback to quarterback a team that has four wins against the preseason top 4. Nobody else has done that. And Adrian Peterson is great. Adrian Peterson was tremendous. But when you talk about positional value, the quarterback is easily the most valuable position on the field, and Joe Burrow was the best at the most valuable position. And also, I mean, does he have a national championship?
No, he doesn't have a national championship. Yeah, but lots. You know who else has a national championship? Chris Leak. Okay, J.J. McCarthy. These guys aren't that good, all right? All right?
But it's like the context of how they got national championships. Like you talk about the context in which Joe Burrow got a
context
national
was he was playing with these NFL All-Stars who were amazing.
And he got drafted before all of them because he was the best player on the best team in the history of college football.
And sometimes the number 1 picks aren't that good. Look at Ryan Leaf. Okay.
Well, Joe Burrow's an exception, clearly.
After an upset in the first round with Adrian Peterson, I am sorry to say that he will be done in today's bracket.
Look, I lost. Joe Burrow, he's a great player, no doubt about it. But the fans for sure got this wrong. Adrian Peterson's the best running back I've ever seen in my life.
All right, the second round of our GOAT bracket today. Tebow moves on over Johnny Football. Joe Burrow over Adrian Peterson. Prime Time over Reggie Bush. And Cam Newton over Barry Sanders. The final 4 is here. We have Cam Newton versus Deion Sanders.
All right, listen, I love Deion Sanders. And if we're talking about the GOAT in terms of cultural impact, then we can talk about Deion Sanders in a much more substantive way. But even when it comes to that, we got the dab, baby. We got Cam Newton in the dab, baby. But if we keep it on the field, Deion Sanders did not win a national championship. He did not elevate his team to that height. Right? Cam Newton did. And if you talk about Deion shutting down one half of the field, let me tell you what's going to happen on the other. Cam Newton's going to throw a dot to one of those people that are working with Johnny Manziel at Ripley's Believe It or Not for a touchdown.
I'll let you talk long enough.
Right.
Where did Cam Newton grow up? Atlanta. Where did Deion Sanders play? Atlanta. So you trying to tell me all that came from watching Deion play in Atlanta all those years. So what you're trying to say is that when we're talking about the GOAT, we're talking about not just on the field, presence, the way Deion Sanders affected Florida State. Florida State was an independent when Deion Sanders played. They only moved to the ACC because of what Deion Sanders did. Again, like I mentioned previously, they were the homecoming game. You know what the homecoming game means? You'll get your ass whooped. So but now we got Florida State, we got Deion Sanders. They weren't the homecoming team no more because of that one person. That one person is iconic. Florida State is a blue blood now because of what Deion Llewellyn Sanders did at that university.
I'd be careful calling them a blue blood when they can't win any games except for the Alabama opener.
I can't help that. We're in the NIL
That's
era.
fast.
But the reality
That's a great point.
If it wasn't for that, you never would have known Florida State. Would never been a Charlie Ward. There never would have been a Derrick Brooks. These guys came there because of what Deion set the tempo. What Florida State, Miami became epic battles because of one guy. Miami had their own situation where the U ran up, but at Florida State, it's one man that started that. You can't say that about anybody else here. One football player that lasted on the campus 4 years that became a phenomenon.
The cultural impact is incredible, but on the football field, Cam Newton
How could you say that?
Cam Newton took a team because he was playing.
Cam Newton was just
nobody.
bigger than everybody else.
Can you name one guy? Can you name one guy on the offense of 2010 Auburn that went to the NFL? No, but he elevated that team offensively through passing and through running to a national championship.
Yeah, but when you're bigger than everybody else, Cam had 5 plays.
You talk about the homecoming game.
He had the out route.
Don't talk about the Iron Bowl.
You don't talk
about the Iron Bowl where Cam Newton destroyed Alabama.
So what?
He destroyed Alabama. So what? Destroyed Alabama.
It's just
the crux of Tim Tebow's argument is that after Tebow, Alabama had a giant
Where did Cam start? Cam started at Florida, and it got released and had to go to junior college.
And then he put it
Deion
together.
Sanders played 3-4 years at Florida State. Your guy had one great season.
The greatest season of all time. As the greatest.
Joe Burrow had a greater season than him. Wasn't even a greater season.
So then you don't believe in yourself, my God.
Well, no, because as a quarterback, but now as a.
All right, our first semifinal matchup. That one was tough, and it breaks my heart to say this, but OG, you are out of here. Cam Newton moving on.
If it wasn't for prime time in the 80s doing what he did, the high stepping, all the swagger, none of these guys will be able to do that right now. Again, we're talking about pre-internet. I know that's hard for a lot of you to remember. Pre-internet, where you had to wait for the 11 o'clock news or Sports Center to see what he did on Saturday. Say what you want, they got it wrong. Deion Sanders, still the greatest college football player of all time.
Let's move into our final semifinal round. Tim Tebow versus Joe Burrow.
To quote my brother Tony Soprano, I'm the motherfucking one who calls the shots. When they decided to do this video, I was the first call, I had the first pick, and all you had to pick up the scraps. You essentially got to sign Joe Burrow. There's a reason why
Incorrect,
Tim Tebow.
by the way.
Well, Tim Tebow was off the board, right?
They asked me who I want. I said Joe Burrow.
Great, well, you didn't have Tim Tebow.
I was listening for
I was doing
Joe
a
Burrow's
monologue,
name.
dude. No,
I was listening for
your
Joe Burrow's name right away.
What was your criteria? You said Heisman National Championship, right? So Tebow has 2
And
national
quarterback.
championships.
Tebow fits into that.
So Tebow has 2 national championships to your 1, and Tebow also has 3 top 5 Heisman Trophy winners, and they're even in Heisman trophies, right? So we could talk about the greatest individual season, one season. Burrow has a seat at the table, right? That's why we're here talking. Why did he ride the bench for 3 years at Ohio State? That matters, right? We can't just, if we could whip out our opinions on the table and see who has a bigger one, right? He was riding the bench. He didn't play. And then what happened his first year at LSU? Do we know he was at LSU for another season? I think he threw 19 touchdowns and like 7 picks and something. They went 8-5.
Slightly above average, but either way, you could take.
Great. Okay, so Burrow was slightly above average. You raise your hand. He had one
In
good
his
year.
first
I
season,
had
he had the
4.
greatest season of all time by a college football player ever. The
Great,
greatest
so
season of all
that's
time
one
ever.
season.
Better than any season Tebow ever had. As a matter of fact, you can take Tim Tebow's 15 best passing games and 15 best rushing games.
Well, that's not what we're doing. We're talking about.
Let me finish. Add those together. He's still 500 yards short of Joe Burrow.
Well,
on that season.
So why did he ride the bench for 3 years? He was riding the bench for 3 years,
Dude,
and then he threw the best.
Tim Tebow rode the bench for his first national championship.
He actually scored 13 touchdowns that year, won a national
Taysom
championship.
Hill.
While you were riding the bench.
Banner, Taysom Hill.
So then what did he do for the
banner.
next? So, okay, I have 3 years. You have 1 good year. What happened
But that's the greatest year in the history of football.
Okay, so
college
you have the
football.
greatest year, and I have the greatest career. There's a reason. He was a great player for 3 years. You have 1 good season.
Listen.
Did he just wake up at 23
and
and
talk about all
start
the
playing
stats
the
you
ball?
want. We can talk.
Yeah, let's talk about stats. Oh, let's talk about eye test. Where he was handing
You
out
want to talk
Gatorade,
about eye test?
handing
You
out
want to throw Tim
Gatorade to
Tebow
Deshaun
in the
Haskins.
same category
He was in
as
the
Joe
quarterback
Burrow,
contest
and you want
for
to talk
3
about
years.
eye test.
Well,
You
he
want
was
to
a
talk
literal
about
better
eye
year.
test with
The
Tim Tebow and Joe Burrow.
SEC all-time leading rusher. You want to talk about passing it? It's because I was scoring 57 rushing touchdowns. Herschel Walker didn't do that. Bo Jackson didn't do that. And in the air, again,
And still had less total touchdowns in the season than Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow had the most total touchdowns,
he
most
was
total
throwing
yards.
to the 2 best receivers in the NFL currently.
And that's
that
his
matters.
fault. You act like Tim Tebow had bums on his side of the ball.
He didn't have bums. That's why he was winning national championships.
And that's why Joe Burrow had the greatest national championship.
Well, Joe Burrow also had guys in front of him.
Joe Burrow had the most
Joe Burrow
top 10
didn't
wins
do anything
in
for
college
4
football
years.
history.
For 4 years, people complain about this COVID years that you should only get 4. He didn't turn it on until his 5th year when he was
That's not
23
his
years.
fault. He never got a shot. That's
Yeah,
not
it
his fault.
is.
How's
Tebow
that his
walked in the
fault?
door and
He
said,
needed a
"Give me the
coach that
football."
believed in him. He needed Edo. He needed a coach that believed in him.
Tebow
And
didn't
look
need
what
anything.
happened.
He needed the football and he run through your fucking face, dude.
Yeah.
That's what Tim Tebow did. Joe Burrow was handing out Gatorade for 3 years. He went
And
in
then he was dropping the dimes.
No, he didn't. What did he do in his first year at LSU?
They won, what'd you say, 8-4? He was average his first year, but it was the greatest
Okay,
college football
Tebow was
season
never
ever.
in the conversation with average. They
But
were
he
a
didn't play
7-win
his
team,
first
an 8.
year.
He
He
scored
barely
13.
played his
He
first
played in
year.
every single game. He scored 13 touchdowns.
Like I said,
and he
Taysom
ran
Hill.
to.
We're giving awards for Taysom Hill now.
No, we're giving awards to Heisman.
Okay, our second semifinal matchup and going into our final round, an upset. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow. Hey, Tim, I'll pray for you, my guy. Oh, man. Wow.
Man, what an absolute joke that is. We're talking about the college football GOAT, and they're saying Joe Burrow. The guy was handing out Gatorade for 3 years. His first year starting, he absolutely stunk. Tim Tebow walked in the door and helped a team win a national championship. He followed that up with the greatest 3-year run in college football history. Jiminy Christmas. Joe Burrow is a better... Get out of here.
Our final round is locked in, and it was not necessarily what we expected. Number 3, Cam Newton versus number 5, Joe Burrow. It's about to go down. We're going to find out who the greatest college football player of all time really is.
As a season ticket holder to the Cincinnati Bengals, I need you to put up the meme of the little kid with a gun in his hand, and he's like this, because I have to go up against my boy, Joey B. Joe
And you already
Shiesty.
know. We don't have to do this then. You already know.
No, I
and
think
anything
the
you say
issue-
is a lie after
it's
this
it's
then.
tough. It's tough because when it comes down to it, there is so little to separate that greatness. Joe Burrow had an unbelievable season.
The greatest
and
ever.
a lot of people would sit up here and from the Cam Newton position say, well, he didn't run the ball like that. But as someone who loves Joe Burrow, I know that he's a motherfucker and that he can get blasted on a pick and get back up and throw 5 touchdowns and beat the shit out of you. But the real issue that you don't have an answer for is that if you swap places, I'm sorry. If you swapped their positions, Cam Newton with Jamar Chase, with Justin Jefferson, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who had a 1,000-yard rushing season with the Kansas City Chiefs, is still winning the Heisman Trophy and still winning the national championship. But Joe Burrow...
But he's not putting up the same numbers. He would not put up anywhere close to the same numbers that Joe
You're
Burrow
talking
put
about
up that
passing
year.
numbers because Joe Burrow is an immensely better pocket passer than Cam
Easily.
Newton was.
Immensely.
However, as the engine of an offense, Cam Newton is absolutely unmatched. If you go back and look at the opening play, this is how much of a fucking nerd I am, by the way, so please check me on this in the comments. If you look at the opening play of every single game of that 2010 season, it was a different formation and a different play call.
So he had great coaching.
No, he
Tremendous
didn't. No,
coaching.
because he had Gene Chizik, who is like the DC at like North Carolina right now, rather than who was like a legend. And I loved your impression earlier, by the way. That was awesome.
good?
That was awesome. It was great. But my point is that would Joe Burrow have better passing numbers on the Auburn 2010 team?
Absolutely.
Potentially. But,
Absolutely.
But do you know? Can you name one wide receiver on that team?
Can you?
Yeah.
I can't.
Darvin
No, I
Adams. Yeah. It's bad. It's bad.
Listen, the
it's
argument,
bad. It's terrible.
I thought you were going
But
to come out here and say that Cam Newton did more with less. That's what
He
I
did.
thought you were going to
He
go.
did, because
no, but
he
he
did.
did less with less.
He won
did
the
less
national
than-
championship.
He did less with less.
He had
Joe Burrow
six-
did
he
more
had
with
s-
obviously more, but the Joe Burrow season that he had is nowhere close
until
to the season that
Bryce
Cam
Young,
Newton had.
until Bryce Young, it was Cam Newton who had the touchdown record for the SEC championship, not Joe Burrow. Bryce
Most
Young,
passing touchdowns in the national championship.
Bryce Young holds it now, but
What's
Cam
more
Newton
important,
held
the
it.
SEC championship or the national championship? Listen, Joe Burrow led the
No, I'm
greatest
just-
college
I-
football
no, I'm
team.
just-
He was the best player on the best team, and I'm regurgitating myself, but it's the
Yes.
fourth
And
time we've
Cam
done
Newton
this.
is the best
Cam
player.
Newton led a team
You
that
don't
never
pass.
that was never
you
trailing
don't,
by double
You
digits.
don't pass the Space Jam test.
I disagree.
The Monstars,
You don't believe that as a Bengals
the
fan.
Monstars,
You don't
the
believe that as a Bengals
the
fan.
Monstars would steal Joe Burrow because they knew that he'd be throwing to a bunch of other Jamar Chase
So the
and
favorites
Justin
would take
Jefferson.
the best player. Would rather have Cam Newton.
No, they
or-
wouldn't take the best
confuse
player
me.
because the best player would be out there coming in with his giant hat off of the set of ESPN to
But
come
he
and
just
help the
milked the
Looney
clock. I
Tunes.
fell for it.
Yeah, it's okay, dude. Good shit.
Okay,
Good shit, buddy.
okay,
Good
okay.
shit. We'll see.
This is very, very close. So close, in fact, that because this is the final, you guys are each going to get 24 seconds to make your final point. Okay? We're going to go with the higher seed to start, Cam Newton.
Cam Newton's the higher seed because he is the greatest college football player of all time. He's the offensive engine. You can do anything with him. He passes the Space Jam test where if you put him on a team with Looney Tunes or with any of us in this room, he could still drag you to a win. Joe Burrow, while amazing and great, still needed the electricity of a Jamar Chase and a Justin Jefferson and a Clyde Edwards-Helaire of a better coach to do what he did. Joe Burrow's amazing, but if you have someone appear right now as the greatest college football player ever to start your team, it's Cam Newton.
All right, you can take Cam Newton's 15 best passing games, 15 best rushing games, combine those totals. He's still short of what Joe Burrow did and the total amount of yards that he put up in his season. Joe Burrow led the best college football team in the history of college football. They had the most points scored. They were only down by double digits once, and that was in the national championship. They went on to score 30 straight. He was the best player on the best team. Therefore, he's the best college football player of all time.
All right, well, first and foremost, I want to congratulate everyone who participated in today's bracket today. You guys all did one hell of a job. But as we know, there can only be one winner. And today, in a very, very close vote, the winner of the greatest college football player of all time bracket Joe Burrow.
Oh, wait. I know it's Joe Burrow, baby.
That was awesome. A lot of great debates. I think every single person brought some heat. The bracket was almost perfect. I would have loved some Ohio State guys. I think Orlando Pace would have had an argument. Archie Griffin. Cam Newton's my guy, even though Joe Burrow, for life.
Credit to the guys out there. They gave it their all, but at the end of the day, it really wasn't enough. Joe Burrow, everybody knows he's the greatest college football player. It's undisputed at this point, man. I'm lucky that I was able to get Joe Burrow first because really there's no other argument, and this is what we do at Fire Sports Takes. We give Fire Sports Takes.
That's going to do it for this episode of the GOAT Bracket. Joe Burrow, the greatest college football player of all time. We appreciate you taking time, and we'll see you next time. All love, top to bottom. You already know what it is. Peace!